My name is Hannah Halapaska. I'm a communication intern, and today we will be doing a port podcast for the environmental aspect of the port. So would you mind telling me who you are, what you do, and how you got to the port?
Sure. My name is Sarah Garza. I am the Director of Environmental Planning and Compliance for the Port of Corpus Christi. I've been in this position as the director for about 3 years and with the port for 15 years.
Okay.
16 years. I just had an anniversary. So at the port I've always been either environmental manager or now the director, and always responsible for ensuring compliance with the port and just making sure that our tenants are meeting the rules and regulations. And probably about 11 years ago, the port went to this system for environmental management called an environmental management program, and it's a program that you set up under ISO 14,000. So ISO is an international standard, and 14,001 relates to environmental management systems.
Okay.
So we set about setting up a program, and after we had set up the program internally, it's a framework for how you're going to manage your environmental affairs, and it really allows you to be compliant, but then go beyond compliance, so you continually improve each year. And it really was very appealing for us just because of our regional impact.
Sure.
And so we have implemented that and been certified now for since 2007, so
Okay. Wow.
over
Yeah.
10 years.
Sweet. So what does the day in the life of Sarah Garza look like?
Chaos?
Other than busy.
No, it's an exciting day. Every day at the port is exciting because we are, we're the economic engine for the region. I mean, we provide for the region's economy in significant ways, and with that, we do it responsibly. So we do it considering our community. We do it considering the environment, and long term, what's this project or this operation going to do for the port? Not only for the port, but all of the people in the community. How will it benefit us? There's the 4 pillars of success that every project is built on: job creation, economy, social and safety, corporate responsibility, and then environmental stewardship. And so that's everything that we do on a daily basis is moving those projects forward and making sure that environmental stewardship is part of that planning process. And so I have a phenomenal team, 7 individuals who get the vision, who are all very passionate about the environment and really enjoy what they do and really enjoy the community that they live in.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely important. So, would you mind explaining the structure of the environmental department? So, who does what? Who's kind of communicating with the community, and then who's kind of behind the scenes working on the actual environmental structure of the port?
Okay, so our department is planning and compliance. So there's with every project, if environmental is not in the planning of it, it's really hard to go back later and add environmental.
Sure.
And you really need to start from the beginning. So I have a part of my team that works on building sustainability into new construction projects, making sure that we have all the permits that are required to do a project. And then I have the compliance side of my house. So I have a individual. So do you want names, actual names?
Oh, no.
Okay.
We were just kind of wondering how the whole department kind of works.
Okay, perfect. So then on the compliance side, I have some folks who are responsible for the environmental management system, and then I have another individual who's responsible for the tenant audit program, and then they have support for the field work and coordinating all those activities for compliance. And so all of us really have an outreach component with the community. So part of our jobs are, constantly talking to groups and presenting information and reaching out to folks to get their input from the community. And so we have people who serve on boards within the community, and just really, environment is really something that takes a large effort. Not just a single person can do environmental, and so it's getting out and making people aware of how they have an impact on the environment, and then soliciting their input. And so lots of coordination by every member on my staff.
So has the environmental department done anything community outreach wise with just picking up trash, kind of getting outside of just the port?
Sure, I think probably everyone on my staff is involved in a community outreach effort.
Sure.
Whether that's a trash pickup or an association or something like that. But a lot of what we do, the port's involved in so much in this community, and we're so big. It's hard for us to really do stuff that doesn't involve the port. But what we like to do is set up projects and invite the community to participate with us. And so, for instance, we just had a Port Green Day where we went out, organized a cleanup of the public fishing areas. So on the Nueces River, there's 2 public fishing areas along Joe Fulton corridor that are heavily used by the public. And so there's a lot of trash and things like that. And so we go out from time to time and clean those areas up. We would love for the community to take ownership of those areas, but recognize that it needs some help to bring attention to it. And so we hosted a Port Green Day, did a cleanup. We invited some of our consultants who do work for us, actually participated in it with us. And so those are the type of effort where we just, you invite people in to not just, tell them, hey, you need to do this. It's like, watch what we're doing, see how we're being leaders, do what we are doing, not just what we say.
And it's also kind of a teaching aspect as well. Kind of a hands-on. Yeah, that's really neat. So you talked about the Green Port Day. What about the Green Marine? The port got awarded as a Green Marine port. So what exactly does that mean?
So it's a certification. It's a maritime certification, and basically that's along the lines of the ISO 14001, where we say that we're going to meet certain requirements, and the Green Marine certification is accountability. So we report on specific benchmarks related to environment up to the Green Marine grader group, and then they actually publish it annually. And so there's accountability, there's levels within each of those, so things like ballast water management and air quality and how you manage your waste. And you, depending on what you do voluntarily, this is beyond compliance, then you move up different levels within the certification program. And so very exciting for us. It aligns very well with our environmental management system and with the culture of the organization. And so you can't have environmental stewardship by one person. I mentioned that earlier, but you also can't have environmental stewardship if you don't have support from all the way at the top of your organization. And the nice thing about our organization is that our Port Commission very much values environmental stewardship, including approving an environmental policy that is our foundation for how we do environmental.
So I know we've heard a lot from the community, some concern, some voicing about the construction of the Harbor Bridge, inviting new companies to come in after we finish our dredging project. How do you kind of work, what would you say to those people that might be concerned about our growth as a port, but they're kind of interested in how we're upkeeping the environmental standpoint?
I think I would say to folks, steer them back first of all to our environmental policy. I mean, it has 5 precepts: air quality, water quality, soils and sediment, wildlife habitat, and sustainability. And so each of those things are factored into every single thing that we do. And we're not going to move forward a project that we aren't sure meets those precepts. And so our community has the benefit of clean air, and not because a lot of people have worked very hard over the years to maintain air quality. A lot of industry, the port included, we've been working on this the whole time that I've been at the port to ensure that we stay in attainment for air quality. The water in the ship channel, one of the cleanest ship channels that we have. I mean, our aquarium draws water for their displays from the ship channel itself, and so that wouldn't be possible if we didn't, if there were, people not being compliant or people, not taking the necessary precautions. And so that's all very important stuff to me and to my staff. I mentioned that, I have a passionate group of individuals, and so that's where that passion comes in of just, we have an environmental policy, we live in this community, we spend the weekends at the beach with our families, and so we want to protect it. And so I would just offer to people out there that I assure you we're just as concerned and ensuring that the proper controls and best practices are built into every project.
Sure. So talking about our environmental aspect, our processes, how we keep everything super clean, how do we deal with other companies coming in with ships that might not have the same environmental interests that we do?
So there is an overall organization called the International Maritime Organization that controls shipping. So the shipping industry, vessels, anything, all have to comply with the rules and regulations of the IMO. And so what those are, they set rules and standards for, what a vessel can emit, what type of fuel it can use, the ballast water exchange. All that is controlled by the International Maritime Organization. Then within the individual ports, our port for instance, we can set more strict rules, and in some cases we do, for the protection of our area. Because, at the highest level, the IMO is considered from a world perspective, but they don't know the details of our port. They don't know the sensitive areas. They don't know the things that we are trying to improve, or the things that, this may be okay here, but here it would, exacerbate a situation to the point of, destroying it or something. And so we set through our tariffs more specific rules. And so we have done that. We've set more specific rules on stormwater quality, for instance. There's certain activities that we don't allow so that doesn't cause pollution to stormwater runoff.
Sure, yeah, that's important. So, I heard someone mention that we have wildlife habitats. Is this something that the environmental department deals with?
So there is a couple of perspectives. So when you get a permit for developing a piece of property and there's habitat or wetlands or something like that that are going to be impacted for your construction, well then you're required to do mitigation. And so we've done the required mitigation on all of our permits. But above and beyond that, we want it, the ecosystem has to be balanced. And so if you don't have the wildlife habitat with an ecosystem, it's going to be imbalanced. And so we work very closely with the Coastal Bend Bays and Estuaries program, and they are an entity, an organization that really is focused on specifically the bays and estuaries around. And so we contribute money to them. They've built a number of wildlife habitats after the hurricane. A lot of the bird habitat that had been created on some of these rookery islands had been destroyed by the hurricane, and so we actually paid them money above and beyond what we give them annually, so that they could restore those habitats, the nesting habitats. And so it's an area that we consider in our environmental policy, but very important to continue to try to grow that wherever we can. And, you know, another example of beneficial use of dredge material. So dredge material, we, you know, put it in upland areas, and sometimes we'll farm that material for use on projects, but even better is to be able, as we're dredging that material, to build what are called beneficial use sites, where they're, you know, building new barrier islands or adding to existing islands and creating habitat on those. And so that's stuff that goes above and beyond. So and the nice thing about the Port of Corpus Christi is that our ship channel is clean. The soils and sediments underneath the ship channel are clean enough that we can actually take them as we're dredging them and create habitat with
that's
them.
huge. So not even the water, or not only the water from the aquarium, but also the sediments. Wow, that's really neat.
Mm-hmm.
So the last question that I would like to ask you is, what, if you could describe what the port does throughout the whole entire community, throughout our environment, for people listening, our community involved. I feel like some people kind of don't realize what the port does and how big of a factor we are in the economy. What would you say to that?
Just from the environmental perspective, I think that I agree with your statement that people don't really realize how big of an impact we have. We are very influential, and so the industry that does business along here, we set the standards for them and say, this is what we will accept, nothing below this. Certainly you can exceed that. We encourage our companies, our tenants, people that work in and around the port area to exceed that. But you can't really ask somebody to do it if you're not already demonstrating that yourself. And so we lead by example. I completely forgot what your question was.
That's okay.
Shoot.
That's all right. So if I could ask you one last question, what has been your favorite project working with the environmental department? I'm sure there's been a ton. But could you think of a favorite, or maybe the biggest that the port has taken a part of?
Wow, that's a tough question. That's an interesting question. What has been my favorite? I think it's really hard to narrow in on a favorite. I mean, I've been here for 16 years, and so a lot has
Lots
happened.
of accomplishments.
For instance, when I first got here, everybody was like, you know, we want this Joe Fulton corridor to happen. It seems so long off, but we really want it to happen. It can open up a lot of opportunities on the north side. And before long, all of a sudden, the project was constructed, and there was a lot of concern, you know, like environmentally, how is this going to impact us? But we did a lot of things in the project. For instance, directed the stormwater to flow into the inner harbor instead of into Nueces Bay, which is much more shallow. And that's just how the port is. And a lot of that stuff happened well before my time, so it's not so much that I'm taking credit, but it kind of is the way the port has always done things. And so me coming on board and being able to take over the compliance and moving us from a place of enforcing to more of partnerships.
Sure.
I think that has been probably the funnest part of my project, because, you know, as you know, if you don't really know people, and so you interact with them, and until you start to have a conversation with them, you don't know what commonalities you have with that person. And the thing that I think is most encouraging is that a lot of companies, and I would probably even venture to say a majority of companies, share an interest in protecting this community that we live in. And so starting to have those conversations and building those partnerships, I think has been the funnest thing.
Yeah, that's
just really to get more people, and not to mention the fact that it builds your team. You know, when we did the environmental management system, one of the big things is organizational buy-in. And so getting to work with all the guys in the field who are actually out there doing the work and hearing their suggestions and seeing that they really had an interest, and they're like, hey, you know, if you just did something, if you just made this little change,
Sure.
it would make all the difference.
Yeah.
And watching them as we got to go, well then do it. It's like, what? I can do this? And so that part has really been, I think, the funnest part of my job.
Neat.
And, most recently we were awarded the Texas Environmental Excellence Award, which is a very prestigious award. And it was, I am, attributing it to all those partnerships and just getting all those people on board to be leaders as well.
Sure.
So we increase our footprint dramatically by each person that we add as a partner, and they're doing the same.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.